she fawns over the main guy. So if you're into incest, then she's the girl you go for. Um, Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who's going to answer the question for the Lunar New Year: is a man really a whole man without a pork bun in his hand? Nick, how you doing, Nick?
The very obvious answer to that is no. No, you have to have a pork bun in your hand, or else you're not a whole man. And what you consider to be a pork bun. I'm not gonna discriminate against that, but it might be. It's like the spiritual idea of a pork bun. Culturally, that could be different, but yeah, you have to have a pork bun in your hand, metaphysically speaking, to be a whole man. Otherwise, you're really just like 99.99999%, or some cultures have it even less. But yeah, that is my unequivocal stance, and I'm never going to budge from that, no matter how long I live or what evidence there is to the contrary. But I'm doing good otherwise. Joe, how are you? Is your life okay?
Yeah, it's doing all right. Funny enough, the our kids watch a certain series on YouTube, and it's from China, and they do a lot of they have some interesting kanji referencing and stuff like that, being like, "Hey, let's change the kanji to the characters to make other new items and new words." I'm like, "Wow, this is probably really educational for those who actually understand the Chinese referencing, and it's actually pretty ingenious." But they have mentioned pork buns on more than one occasion. So last time we were going through Costco, they happened to have a sale on pork buns, and so we picked some up. And our kids have never had them before, so it was just kind of funny because they're like, "What's that?" And like we explained, yeah, it's a pork bun. They're like, "Oh wow!" Like they were like super stoked just because they've seen it on their kids show forever. Yeah.
Like this show is becoming real.
Yeah, it's like cartoon food. It's like the joke, like anime food's real, like
Yeah.
those who like Monster Hunter meat, right? So you always see someone make like a Monster Hunter meal for like their significant other and post it to Reddit and be like, "Yeah, I really want to know how you made that because that looks amazing."
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that the food animations in Monster Hunter World was pretty epic. That was yeah. Anyway, okay, I'm excited for the new one. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're gonna quickly jump into the news. We got a few things to talk about, which is pretty exciting. So why don't you take it away, Nick?
Yeah, a few nothing really huge stories, I don't think, but quite a few little stories from around the internets. Um, First up, um, this is I don't know how old this is, but it came to my mind as we were prepping for the show. Phil Spencer said that the requirements for developers to specifically develop for the Xbox Series S, that those requirements are not going away. Um, the devs over at whatever development studio that did Black Myth Wukong, they were kind of a while ago. They had been complaining about like, well, it's not on Xbox yet because of the Series S requirements and all that stuff. Um, and anyway, so Phil Spencer said, those requirements are not going away, and I kind of rolled my eyes at it, but then I kind of read on a bit more, and so a point that he did make that I'll give him his due on is he did say that a lot of developers are already making games according to different specs, like they're making games according to specs for Steam Deck, or for the Switch and stuff like that, or for phones and stuff. And so it was like, and it's sort of like, yeah, Phil, that is what you would say as you're trying to defend your Series S, but it is a point. It is a fairly decent point, I will say. So that kind of wrinkle, like putting that wrinkle on it, I was kind of like, yeah, I guess that makes a little more sense. I still think that I still don't like that answer. I still think that there should be some that it's if I'm just putting myself in the shoes of an Xbox only owner or an Xbox Games Pass only owner, something in that world, and being like yeah, that'd be kind of frustrating if I was in that world. um so I sort of I sort of disagree. I think that there might have been something better to do, something better to do with that. But I at least wanted to, I at least like to round out the argument a little bit and kind of give credit where credit is due. So anyway, I just saw that and I was like, okay, maybe that's worth mentioning. So Joe, does that affect your opinion of the situation at all?
Well, it's not the first time. So Black Myth was just most. It's the guys at Game Science.
Game science, that's right.
So they're not the first people to tout issues with making things equal on Series S. In fact, there's a precedent where things weren't comparable, and that would be Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3, when that came out, they ended up I'm pretty sure, because they were saying how they're having a hard time, and that's why it didn't come out right away on Xbox, because they couldn't do Xbox X and S simultaneously.
Right.
And then eventually they did come out, but S, I believe, had their split screen cut out from it,
That's
so
correct.
you
Yeah.
couldn't do. And so because of that, it's just like, granted, a lot of Series S owners were very upset about that. I believe they fixed that later on. Maybe at least I'm not 100% sure, but I thought they did. And yeah, it's when you have a system that's so different in a lot of ways, in your respects, it's kind of like, what do you expect? You kind of need to cut your losses at some point. But the systems are getting old at this point, and so you need to. For me, I understand the argument of like, hey, you are doing Steam Deck samples, but making it for a PC and being able to do a lot of the tweaks is different than doing it for a console. Uh, it's not a one to one or like for like. Uh, it should, and at the same time, when you go to the console, you expect a certain degree of fidelity, right? Like you're expecting to have a certain quality of life and certain expectations. That's the whole point of getting a console. You just grab it, you play. You don't need to tweak with a bunch of stuff. It should automatically look pretty solid. Um, and unfortunately, it's just the S isn't really living up to that potential, but it is by far cheaper, and so they were able to get more out the door. I think for me, it's not an argument because I have an X. I mean,
You're like, I
um,
don't give a F.
that's
Yeah. And a
yeah. Well, it's
PS5
just
and a pretty decent PC. So you're just like, ah.
I wanted a disc system. If they had an S, if the S was as cheap as it was with a disc, you know what? That would be a different story. Um, uh, but I prefer having a disc base. Unit. It just there's a lot of reasons to it. Plus, um, the backwards compatibility and having skipped the Xbox One generation and having a bunch of 360 games, but also gone through so many different 360s. I've gone through like, I want to say like 9 or 10 different 360 units with only two of them not breaking on me. Uh, so
Yeah.
it's the so being able to play, to not only play those old games, but then have them perform better than they originally were on the original hardware. That was important for me. That's some of the stuff that drove me to going with the X. Um, but when you go with a lesser tier system, it's kind of like, what do you expect? Like, are you to have grand illusions of, yeah, like everything being one to one or everything being smooth sailing? Like, you have to look at the history of a lot of these two-tier models. Uh, Xbox in the past having the different hard drive models, PlayStation as well. You'd have the cheaper one, which was a lesser hard drive, uh, and it used to be more difficult. Xbox 360 had their proprietary hard drive, and you didn't really have an external solution at that time.
Hmm.
And as games gotten bigger, you'd have a situation where you wouldn't barely have one game fitting if it was like the Call of Duty debacles, right? So it's like, well, when you go with a cheap system, a cheaper unit, it may be what's economic for you at the time. You may not be able to afford anything better, but also you should realize that unfortunately, it's not going to be as good as the higher tier, thing. Um, it sucks, but yeah, at the same time, like, well, for the PC gamer or for anyone who's running older hardware, that's good news for us. Well, for me, I'm running, like I said, a 3080, which
Yeah,
is still okay. But hey, if Xbox is going to keep on pushing all their games and all their development to fit the S, I'm like, that just makes my 3060 last that much longer. So,
you're 3080.
uh,
Yeah, you're 3080. Lasts much longer.
or
Yeah,
3080. I'm sorry, 3080. Yeah.
the truth comes
So
out. It's a
I said
3060.
360 earlier. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
why.
you just added a
Xbox
zero in there.
360. Yeah, 3060. My bad. So yes, that's kind of uh my takeaway from it is like, hey, it's good for me on the PC front.
Yeah,
Xbox is moving to all PC or just all platforms in general. So, or at least they're trying. And
yeah,
so you can play the games better somewhere else. But you'll at least know that you have your game coming to you on your ass. Kind of like the Switch, it's just like, well, Nintendo's still going to make games for the Switch. It may not be optimized for it, but they're still coming out.
yeah.
So
I think some kind of planned thing where it is like where and it probably would need to happen right around now or maybe as long as a year ago, but something where they were like, okay, the S, what we are removing those requirements. The S, we put them in place for as long as we can, but the S just cannot keep up with max level gaming requirements. We're going to still put out as many games as we can for it. We're still going to sell it. It's still going to be cheaper and all that stuff. But what you buy when you buy that is only going to be able to handle certain games that like it's all digital only or something like that. They're going to be marked that way. And I think there's probably a way to do that, but they don't want to do that yet. It seems like that is kind of what Xbox already wants is, I don't want to put a marketing idea in their mind, but like it seems like what they're trying to say is gaming for everybody, gaming for everyone, where it's like anybody, any price point can come in and play our games. And I like that aspect. It's a nice sentiment if nothing else. But yeah, that's kind of just kind of where we're sitting right now is in this sort of weird limbo with Xbox. But it'll get resolved eventually.
it future proofs them on a couple levels as well, because you're looking at um, if they're trying to stream their stuff and they're going to be going to Amazon Fire Sticks, TVs,
Right.
and stuff like that, it's you're going to need a lower graphical tier for the bandwidth, right? Also, they're planning on making a handheld in their future too. At least that's what rumor seems to have, and so depending on how good that tech is, to be able to compare it to the S as it is now, it's not too crazy to think in a couple of years, you're going to have a Xbox Series S performing handheld, something on that graphical equivalent. So if we just keep on using that as the bottom baseline, when they do come out with a handheld, they can make something that does equivalent to that, and which is honestly kind of I wouldn't know the exact comparison, but when you're looking at Steam Deck, that's not out of the realm of being too crazy.
Yeah.
So all right,
That's a good point.
hopefully, like I said, hopefully these. I guess it just really depends on how big of the generational the graphical leap is for the next set. And yeah, all right. What do you got next for us on the news?
Next up, coming from Final Fantasy 14, some weird stuff that's going on. There is a third party, what's being called a stalker program, um, where in game, this program can track a player no matter where they are in the game as long as they're playing. The name of the program is called Playerscope. It's been removed from GitHub and maybe some other places due to breaking policy whatevers. But a lot of people are still saying that it's been backed up, obviously, in different places. Um, I didn't get to finish completely reading the article that where they were talking about this. I think it's been cited in a couple different places, but basically, the developers of Final Fantasy 14 are saying that they there's two courses of action they're looking at dang it, let me just, I think I have it right here. Let me just grab it again. Yeah. So the Kotaku's from Kotaku, development and operations teams are aware of the situation and the concerns being raised by the community and are discussing the following options. So this is coming from the development guys. So, and then they're saying requesting that the tool in question be removed and deleted. And then number two, pursuing legal action. So they're going to try to kind of ban the tool, it looks like. And if it doesn't get gotten rid of, then they're going to pursue legal action. Some people are not happy with that. It's the internet. Somebody's never happy with anything. So, so, but I don't know what other recourse that they could have off the top of my head. But yeah, like banning the tool, and then pursuing legal action for anybody that does use the tool is kind of the best that you can do on short notice. What they would do in the long term, I'm not sure, but it was an interesting story at the very least. I don't know how often this comes up, but seems like it would come up. I'm kind of actually surprised I haven't heard of it coming up more often in other games.
I mean, so I guess what was the like uh I what brought this on is my question is it's like did someone like was someone literally getting stalked, followed, or was it for her like were they getting harassed? Like
I
it just
don't.
seems like a weird.
I honestly don't know like what triggered the reaction to it. Um, the only thing that I mean, I think that it would be enough for people to know that the program existed and to know that it was through just talking that people had been using it in one way or another, for ill or for good or for even just for good. It's like, hey, you could use this in a bad way. I don't know of any stories about it being used in a bad way, but the idea that it could be is maybe enough to freak people out. I don't know.
I can also see it being made by someone for themselves, like in the uh streaming world that we live in, and being like, "Hey, my fans, you can follow me or find me during this game at any time if
Yeah.
you're on my server." Like, hey, anytime I'm on, you jump on and come at me, or like we can roll together or something like that. That's I can see that being a constant. Instead of having to get pinged or anything like that, or like, hey, even if I'm not doing a live stream at this time, maybe I'm just doing a recording for a bit. You can still like that way they don't have to announce or have a tweet out every time, but like, hey, I need people for this. uh you know and I may be, instead of having to constantly update where they're going for different events or different raids, or if they're farming, just be like, hey, find me, come, like, if you want to be in and you're okay with it, just meet me, download the program, and there I am. I can kind of see that in this society that we're in now. It seems crazy, but also at the same time, like, if someone was making it for a nefarious purpose, they wouldn't have uploaded it to GitHub, I feel. I don't know, but people aren't the smartest, so
Oh yeah. I mean, the person that made it is probably just like, you know, kicks and giggles. I'm just like doing, look what I can do, or this is funny, interesting, weird. But it's like, hey, what if you were evil and you could use this? I don't know. But it's an interesting problem. I don't know what's going to come of it, but if I happen to be looking at the news whenever this is resolved, then we might talk about it again later. But for now, that's
okay,
just kind of what's going on.
sure thing. What else you got for us?
This is kind of just a me thing, but there was a trailer that was just dropped for. So this is kind of going away from games, more into the TV and movie space. But it is game related in some way. The trailer for Astartes 2 just came out. So Astartes 1, or Astartes as it was called, was a fan created little like YouTube mini series each part was only a few minutes. I can't remember how many parts there are, but there's not very many. Um, anyway, so that was created in part or in whole, I don't know. But the lead for it was a guy named Siama Penderson. I believe I'm saying his first name right. Um, and so after he created that and put it on YouTube, Workshop, the people that make Warhammer 40K, which Astartes is the name of the Space Marines, the best quality Space Marines in that universe. Anyway, Games Workshop brought on uh, uh, the creator of Astartes, and he kind of just disappeared. And that was like 2 years ago, and everyone was kind of just like, "Well, I wonder what happened. I wonder if he's like, if he's like, if like Astartes just, or if Games Workshop just got rid of him or something like that." But no, um, uh, it looks like he might be involved with Astartes 2. Um, and that is going to be coming out in the what way, shape, or form. I'm not completely sure yet, but the trailer at least does look pretty cool. Looks like they have a bunch of different things kind of going on in there, and looks pretty sweet. So I'll be looking out for that. As soon as that comes out, I will almost certainly go watch it. And yeah, that just kind of has me excited.
Yeah, you've mentioned the Astartes before, and just quick looking it up. They actually have an IMDb page, and it's 5 episodes
Okay, five,
that
yeah,
they did from. So they apparently from 2018 to 2020.
right.
So it took them a little bit to complete that series. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's most definitely within our nerd realm, and Warhammer 40K is probably my favorite of the Warhammer series. I'm not a big fan of the traditional Warhammer,
Yeah, most people have kind
but
of shifted over to Warhammer 40K as being it's kind of the flagship now, I think.
yeah, at least it's easier for me to jump on, and especially after. I mean, a lot of people really started paying more attention to the Warhammer franchise, especially after Space Marine 2 just came out not that long ago. So, all right, that's fun and interesting. So, all right, cool. If you got the time, give it a shot. All right, what else we got here?
This is something you probably know a little bit more about than me, but basically, uh, the RTX 5090 cards. Not very many were produced and sent out into the United States. Um, very few. I think there's also an article I saw that said that 5080s are also basically all already sold out, or at least the the supply is not going to last, but like a quick second. And then there's a and so it's basically a shortage going on, and sort of the scary headline um, is that there are listings for these cards on eBay up to $6,000. I would imagine that's for the 5090, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's for any and all of the above. So yeah, that's kind of a sort of end is nigh situation going on with the RTX cards. Yeah, that's pretty much all I know about it. Is there any more that you think that you know of that you think that people should know?
Well, I know that there was a post going on Reddit showing the alleged launch numbers for Micro Center in the U.S. And so Micro Center being a pretty decent nationwide chain at this point, and very much a tech anyone in the computer space for computer building channels and stuff like that. Micro Center is always the go-to store. Um, well, apparently they only got, according to the page that's floating around, 5090s on launch, 233 were is what was allocated
Two, three,
for.
three, and that's for
That's for a handful of stores. That's literally from like, let's see here, I'd say like 20 stores or something like that,
you mean
and
you mean 233 in the town, right?
the entirety of all of Micro Center. That was
You
their
mean
like so for
the United
so for
States?
example, Chicago has a Micro Center. The one in Chicago got a whopping, according to this paperwork, got a whopping zero. Yes. So I mean, you have the was it looks like here, Houston. Houston got 10. That was on the higher end. A handful got 10. California, the Tustin, or that one is like near LA. That one got the most, got 67. But then a lot of them got 5. We're looking here. Uh, there was there's one outside of Chicago, Westman, and that one got 4. So for the entirety of the Chicago surrounding area, 4 out of 2 stores, for 5090s. That's kind of messed up. Miami got 10. I mean, but yeah, it's just kind of it's just interesting and it's really sad. It's like people are of course saying, "Hey, it's a paper launch," and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it really seems like it. It seems like it's just to it's most definitely just to get out there. I mean, considering the fact that Houston got 10, but Dallas got 9, and that's it. Um, it's one of those things that for the 5080s nationwide, we're looking at uh, see 2,393. So let's just say 2,400 5080s for the entirety. It's like I feel bad for the people who had to go outside and wait
Oh,
and like
imagine being
people are camping out.
number 11 in line in Dallas, or I mean Houston, or even in Dallas, and you're still not getting one. It's just like, gosh, dang it! That just you're camped out there. I'm number 11, not too bad, and you're just like, and then some sad little pimpled Micro Center employee comes out and says has a bullhorn, and he says, "We're sorry, they only gave us 9." Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
it's no, it's yeah. There's a lot of theories behind this. Some of the things being like, well, they've only been, if they have only been in full production, maybe, people are spitballing or tinfoil hats and stuff like that. So they're like, hey, they discontinued the 4090s, only a handful of months ago, and the theory behind that was, okay, well, you're trying to take out your own competition, right? You don't want to be competing against yourself. So by eliminating stock of the old stuff, you're making everyone buy the new stuff. Okay, that's it's fine if you have plenty of new stock, but they didn't. And if they came to a full, if they only had enough, manufacturing for one or the other, so okay, you stop making the 4090s, you're producing 5090s, great, but you only had a few months to really do it. Well, why didn't they just wait longer? I mean, in the past, you've come out during October, they've waited till now. Like, why didn't they just wait even further? Well, some people are speculating because it's due to the tariffs coming in, or the alleged tariffs. Like, hey, well, we got
The
our
threat.
MSRP in now,
Yeah.
so therefore we set the price point, and we've officially sold them at MSRP. Now, whatever happens due to shipping from China or overseas, that's on those countries,
That
or
that's
in our
Donald
case,
Trump's
in the U.S.
fault. We wash
Yeah,
our
it's like,
hands of it. I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
if
you're
America's making them. America's made Nvidia have weaker cards, being the D series cards, in China, so they're not as graphically capable. So I guess this is their revenge. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like it's a smart business move. I'll say that it's I respect the game on that. They got to protect themselves, and I kind of get it, and so it kind of does make sense. Um, but it is sort of like yeah, I guess I guess you wrote your name on your homework, even though you didn't. It's not really a good example, but or a good metaphor. Something slimy about it. I'll say that, but it is what it
yeah.
is.
Well, what's even worse is the photos of people taking allegedly like having their screenshots of their 5090 in front of the micro center with the line of people still waiting in line.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then trying to reset, then immediately reselling it for obscene amount of money.
yeah.
Uh,
I guess I should say full disclosure. I do, as of like yesterday, own stock in Nvidia. I bought a couple shares. I've been wanting to buy some for a while, but I do I have liked them for a while. but whenever they kind of went down a little bit again, they've been kind of struggling a little bit because of some of the news that's been coming out. So I was like, oh, it's probably now is a good time to buy. So anyway, I appreciate it when people, YouTubers and personalities say that. So I should say I do want to say that I do own a little bit. So from now on, you can never listen to me and any of my opinions about Nvidia or any of their related products. So yeah, just know
You,
that going
Nick,
forward.
are a part of the problem. Yes.
No, I'm not part of the problem. I'm the whole problem.
Well, I just hope all the other AI solutions just run you into the ground. You and your
Well,
small amounts of stock.
as as soon as I bought it, and I knew this was going to happen. As soon as I bought it, and I 100% knew this was going to happen, the stock dropped like $3 or $4, and I was like, yeah, yeah, that's about the size of it. But it's a hodl, so I'll just hang on to it it until it hopefully forever. I hope I never have to sell it, but I'm gonna definitely hold on to it for a while.
All right. Well, what else we have now? Hopefully, some better news.
Um, yeah, probably a little bit. A bunch of little things here. Modding is coming to Hogwarts Legacy on PC, so they're going to be modding that stuff up. A lot of cool, crazy, weird stuff's going to be coming to that. So if
Modding has always been available on PC games. So what makes this different?
I don't know, I only read the headline of the article you sent me, so I guess you're going to have to tell us what I come.
No,
Okay, new
they're
dungeons,
just
quests, and
officially
flying options coming to
supporting.
Hogwarts Legacy with official PC mod support. That is what it says from Video Games Chronicle. That is all that I know from the article.
Well, the key is it's official. There's a difference because opposed to like all the Fallout mods and stuff like that, because it's
Yeah, I guess so.
if the developers are actually like supporting and being very very few games offer actual mod support. Everything else is mostly doing it yourself, run at your own risk, and we're not going to be we the developers aren't going to be a part of it. So all right, um,
Yeah,
that's fine and
official
that's
mod
fun.
support
I
is
mean,
is nice. Yeah.
so it's one of those games that I started and then got sidetracked, but my spouse is having a great time with it so far. Yeah,
Good. I'm
they recently picked it up again,
good. Good. I'm glad.
and
I'm
you're
glad
never
she's
getting that
playing.
copy back. You never.
I whenever it goes on, so it's stupid. Sometimes I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, man, I'd kind of like to play that game again for like a little bit, and then I go, it's on super sale. It's only like $20, and then I'm like, I should just buy another digital copy, and then I think to myself, I will play. I will. I know that it. I know exactly what's going to happen. As soon as I open it back up, get it installed, open it back up, I'll go, oh, I remember exactly what this game is. I don't want to play this anymore. And I'll have wasted $20 because I'll just go play something else. So I just resist the urge every time. I know that I'll only play it for like 2 minutes and be like, oh yeah, I can't remember what's going on here. So anyway, that is my own
That
plight.
was I like the game well enough, but it was like I think I mentioned before, I put like 15 hours into a 2 hour stint of the game. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
like, and then what I ended up telling my spouse was that, hey, what you need to do is you need to streamline at least a handful of these story missions. Don't get sidetracked by just wandering the halls. Just go, and at least the very
it
minimum, like in the very beginning, go to Hogsmeade right away. That way, when you're collecting chests, your inventory is small as anything. You can then teleport and sell your old junk that is important, because or else you're going to find chests, unlock them, and completely forget where they are, because the mapping in that is the mapping in it is pretty terrible. I
mm,
think, and it's like if you at least could like drop pins or something like that, it
something.
really,
Yeah,
yeah. So that was the only real knock against as far as the UI and everything, because like they did so much actual attention to detail, and so many small things were really good in that game. It
it's a
was
good
just
game.
that the map was atrocious to work and trying to navigate through. Like I'm trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B, and you're just looking at this really janky 3D model like of Hogwarts. So, anyways, that's neither here nor there. But if you do pick up the game, if anyone picks up the game, streamline the handful of actual story missions first, before just getting sidetracked by exploring,
Yeah,
and realize there's a lot of things that you won't get until like 5 hours, 6 hours into the game. You'll learn new spells, or you can't, because I or just look it up. Don't worry, just look up where things are, it's okay. If
yeah,
it's a map item, don't waste your time trying to find it, organically. Don't waste 2 hours in Hogsmeade, waste 20 minutes and find out where all the items are and just zip your way through, because you'll miss one thing, like, "I know there's one thing left here," and then double yeah, it's
yeah.
don't
It is a bit of a
be bullheaded
collectathon,
like me.
and it can if you you are responsible for knowing your own evil nature, and if you have it in your body to want to collect a bunch of stuff on a collectathon where you can't resist, then yeah, you should probably just try to get a couple missions in, or at least make a commitment to every once in a while. I'm gonna stop collecting things. I'm just gonna go do a couple missions, and then I'm gonna collect or whatever. I don't know. Talk to your therapist. You gotta know you. But anyway, so modding coming to Hogwarts Legacy on PC. Next up, a bunch of Sony news, small Sony news. Uh, Sony drops the PSN requirement for PC players. So they're basically saying, like, you don't have to have a PSN account now to play our games on PC. But they did add in-game incentives for at least one game, at least the Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Um, so they're kind of they're kind of being like, like, you don't have to have a PSN account, but here's some incentives to go ahead and get you to create one. I think it's overall. I think it's a good move. I think it's a good give and take. It's like they're still giving you stuff. They're still trying to make the game more fun and stuff like that, but they're not forcing you to do anything. Which I had a friend that he started playing Helldivers 2, like PC only gamer, very very happy to just be a PC gamer, and he started playing Helldivers 2 because a bunch of his friends were playing, and he was like, "What the heck is this stuff with the PSN account?" And he was really frustrated by it. He was just very very like what the heck, why, So I think a lot of people felt that way, and I think this is more or less a good move overall.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's putting the needs of the people ahead. Uh, no one likes extra clients. We everyone got upset with it when it came to was it everyone did it. BioWare, Epic. You had Ubisoft, EA. I mean, so especially when you're going into Steam, and then Steam opens up, like this SquareSoft, client, and you had to have a sign in for that. It's just kind of ridiculous. Uh, so I can see why people don't want to. Since I already had a PSN account, it didn't really bother me too much, but I can totally see where people are coming from. The only time I ever saw it as the one argument I saw was, well, Sony wants it so that if in future theory of like trophies, being able to you get a trophy on the PC and it'll count towards like your PSN account.
Right.
And I'm like, that would be neat. I would prefer a trophy over a Steam achievement any day of the week. Uh,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I don't care enough about it to make that like the hill that I'm going to die on, because I don't like I really won't fight for that at all. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's not the end of
it
the
just
world.
yeah, for sure. So, and especially since they really made a push a while back, being like, no, all our games coming forward, like, Ghost of Tsushima, I think, post, it was like, yeah, they're all going to be PSN account. Like, you're just burning bridges for no reason. I mean, well, at least they've changed their mind for now, and we'll see what happens later.
Yeah. So going on, so for the past 8 months, this is also Sony still, but for the past 8 months since Jim Ryan, previous CEO over at Sony Interactive Entertainment, uh, uh, since he retired, Hideaki Nishino and Herman Holst have been co-CEOs Um, and just recently, Nishino has taken over as president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Herman Holst is still head of or president of some division over there. I guess you can read more about it if you're super interested. But anyway, just wanted to bring that up. It's sort of a thing. I couldn't really think of anything more to really say about it. Just wanted to kind of keep like make a little note of it on the podcast, and if it ever comes up, then we can at least point back to this or something. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean Herman Hulst, he came in from within Sony, being part of or being like head of Guerrilla Games.
right.
So yeah, it's neat that it's kind of weird though. Shortly after being co-CEO, it was a weird thing to begin with, but then now that he's being moved adjacent or laterally, I guess, in a weird way, and it's like I don't think there's anything to be worried about. It's just them restructuring. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah. So
All right,
sorry.
well,
So
go on.
next up and last, Sony to shift away from PS4 games in being in PS Plus, part of the PS Plus monthly games. That'll be starting in 2026. So I thought it'd be like right around the corner, but when I read on a little bit more, I was like, oh, it's not going to happen until 2026. So it makes sense. I mean, PS4 is getting to be a pretty, it's a legacy system. So it makes sense that they would be kind of moving away from that. Also, the PS5 catalog is really big, so it makes sense, and just kind of a little notice there to put out there.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know that people are like, are interested in having like what else we're gonna get from them because when they originally pulled away from, they did PSP games back in the day, and then they took away the video games, but they didn't increase anything. They just slowly took things away. Uh, I'm like, it's to be expected. Uh, one of the things I was surprised with is they kept on, they'll still bring new VR games to the premium service because that wasn't initially stated when they did start the premium. They're like, well, this is going to be this a handful of games, but they never actually said that they were going to continue to add, and they have. But the premium PlayStation Plus subscription is quite a bit more expensive. So, and also I tend to own most of those games anyway, so I'm like, well, that doesn't affect me then. Uh, I don't think they'll be. I don't think they're going to really go ahead and add a PlayStation because they're doing that to the premium subscription. I don't think they're going to give away any VR games,
Mm,
um, and I think they're just it's going to keep with the PS5 until the PS6 rolls around, and they'll just do those two. I don't really see them doing much else. If I'm wrong, great. Like if they want to give us more, I'll be happy to take more free stuff. I just don't expect it.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
all right. Now to what we've been playing. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah. So I've been playing quite a few different games here and there. And I came on here, or I was planning to come on here today and talk about Moss on PSVR. I think it came out for PSVR 1, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've been playing it on PSVR 2, and just been borrowing your copy, and I am very, 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 very close to finishing it. I am like right there at the end. I might have 15 minutes or 30 minutes left in the dang game before I at least finish the story mode. But I'm not quite there yet, so probably could talk about it, but I'd like to. I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to simmer on a little bit more because it is a game that I really like. I have really, really, really enjoyed it a lot. So today, instead, I'm going to talk about the Plucky Squire, which released not too long ago. Game by Devolver Digital, and it's Devolver Digital. If you're familiar with kind of the kind of games they make weird, cheap, interesting games. Um,
inexpensive, or less expensive, not
Sorry,
and not lack of quality.
yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's no lack in quality. It's just like I'll say weird, efficient, interesting games. Um, a lot of times they have like a darker bent to them and stuff like that. So I was kind of thinking that this would be sort of along those lines, maybe a little bit of Pony Island sort of idea going on there, but I don't think that it is. Now that I'm a little bit
Didn't get that vibe at all.
I well, I was hoping. I mean, that wasn't in the trailer or anything like that, but I was hoping. I was like, maybe this is a little bit more. So the Plucky Squire, it is a kid's game. I think it'd be pretty perfect for like, it's been a while, but probably like 7 to 9 years old would be like the ultimate sweet spot for this game, I think, because it is a game that's not voice acted. You do have to read in it, but it's pretty simple dialogue and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, so that being said, um, the 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 main conceit of this game is that it is a kind of a 2D, action RPG, kind of old style Super Nintendo style kind of game where you go around and you're a squire and you swing your sword and you do stuff. But then the interesting wrinkle to this game is that so that whole aspect of it looks like a storybook. And the interesting wrinkle is that in the game the storybook exists, and you can in the game come out of the storybook and exist in the quote real world or in a 3D world. And so you come, and so like some stuff happens and you come out of the storybook into the real world. And so you're basically just on somebody's desk. I think you're on a kid's on a kid whose name is Sam. You're on his desk, and it's at like nighttime or something. But you can like walk around, and you see like his blocks and like his paint supplies and stuff like that. And so there's like a story that's kind of going on with there, sort of. It's I don't want you to get too stuck on this, but like I got like Toy Story vibes a little bit where there's a little bit of that kind of going on in the story. Not 1-to-1 or anything like that, but there's a little bit of that kind of a feeling, I will say. But anyway, so you come out into the world and you can do stuff, and then you go back into the storybook, and that's sort of where the main crux of the adventure happens. But then you have to to solve puzzles and to do stuff, you have to come out of the storybook and actually turn the page, like turn page back, go get something within the storybook, come back out of the storybook, turn the page back to where you were, go back in, and then plant that thing in the storybook world in order to move the story forward. And so it's all pretty simple. It's all pretty rudimentary, but it's interesting. It's compelling, and it's fun. I kind of do wish that this game, like I think the conceit of this game is really smart. It's just sort of on a kid's level, like a 9-year-old's level. So I've only played a couple hours of it, but now having satisfied my curiosity and pretty well convinced that I'm not going to have like a Pony Island type situation go on here, I think that I'm probably going to drop it. I'm not really going to do too much more with it, but at the very least, it's pretty fun, just in a minute to minute kind of way. And then they give you the option to buy, like in game, you can buy kind of concept art, which is pretty simple, but you get like the whole thing, and it only costs like a couple little in-game, like a light bulb money, because like light bulbs are money in the game. So it only costs like a few light bulbs to be able to buy some of the art, and then when you buy it, it's like a note from the devs, from the creators, and it says like, we like we're gonna do this when we first started. Like there's like a guy you fight toward the beginning, and after you beat him, you go on and you can buy the concept art, and they say like it's a pretty much the same shape guy, but instead of being a honey badger, he has like a duck neck and head, but like a really overly large body. And they're like, this was the first idea we had for the boss, but it ended up being that the honey badger ended up winning out. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of fun. So yeah, it's a good sweet little game. If any of that sounded interesting to you at all, then you should go pick it up. I think it's on PS Plus, or I don't even know how I got it. I don't think I paid for it, but if
It's a PS Plus, the second tier, extras,
extra,
PS
okay.
Plus extras title. So yeah, because I actually, so real quick, it's being public. If the publisher is Devolver Digital, because the
Oh yeah,
actual developer is All Possible Futures.
that's right. Yeah.
So that's but this game, yeah, this game's always looked pretty good on the whimsy front. In fact, it for some reason, well, it really reminded me of PlayStation 3's The Puppeteer, or I think it's just Puppeteer. Um, but that was done by Japan Studio. So that game was also pretty unique. And that one was like literally you're a Pinocchio-esque, like puppet going through a neat stage, and it was kind of a two-player ish. Second player was just like an aid. But anyways, the vibes I got from Plucky Squire just had that kind of same whimsy. And the reason why I haven't gotten to play in this one yet is actually because I was playing the game I'm about to talk about, which is Astrobot. So I finally got around to playing that.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, it's what I have to say about it is, like, of course, having one game of the year, it's, most definitely worth taking a look at. But I can see why it won game of the year. Like, I played the other Astrobot games, and those were awesome as well. But this one, it really does for anyone who grew up playing platforming games, Super Mario or anything like that. It really hits all the right notes when it comes to that fondness. It's kind of like a playing like Super Mario World meets like uh, Mario 64, uh, but for the first time again, almost. They do. It has like the perfect amount of collecting and new fun things. It's funny because in my opinion it was almost too much. It's like it's great for today's TikTok ADD mentality, where it's just like you need something popping off or everywhere at any given point,
Mm,
and anywhere you explore, anything you try, I felt you got rewarded for it, which was really nice. Hit the endorphin hit, but also made you feel just like, yay, I explored that area and I got rewarded for it. I jumped on a tree, or I decided to do something silly and try to get to a spot that might have been in most games. It's just like, yeah, you got to a spot, but there's nothing there. It was just pointless. But they're like, no, here, have a few coins or something like that. Um, and it's really good. It just has a really good homage feeling to all those stuff. Like, so the concept of the story is you're in your spaceship, which is legitimately just a PlayStation 5. It's flying through space. You get taken out by an alien, and so they steal a component and you crash to a planet. You have enough to build a little makeshift. It's a controller with wings and a jet. Yeah, so you take your controller and fly to the nearest planet system, and getting you're relocating your lost friends, and you're getting parts and currency. And then on your hub planet, you're constantly adding the new people you found. Uh, there's just a lot of charm behind it. They even on the overworld, when you're looking at going from planet, level to level, essentially, um, you can just kind of explore randomly, and they reward that too. You're like, oh, there's a cluster of stars over here. What happens? And sure enough, it moves aside to find a very small hidden level. Just a very short thing, but it's like it rewards you for it. Or later on, you're like, oh, there's a shooting star. Let me go interact with that. And then you're in the overworld. You're like, oh yeah, it gave me something cool. Um, and as you're finding new things to unlock, you're like, well, the level is going this way, but let me just explore over here. Like, hey, I found a warp that brings me to a whole new planet. Like, it literally pulled me out of the level I was at, which then makes you, granted, you have to go back to that same planet if you want to complete it, retrace your steps, which isn't ever a hard thing to do. Uh, but for those who want to be completionists, they're like, yeah, you're replaying a level because you missed something. Well, in the beginning of the level, you can spend a couple of those coins you're collecting to get a helper that will indicate when some collectible is nearby. It's like a little bird that chirps, and they're like, okay, that's cool. But part of the thing is, as you've seen in all the trailers, you're collecting a bunch of nostalgic figures too. Like you have your generic Astrobot characters, but then you have them that are reminiscent of all of Sony's history. I mean, you're like I got Alucard from Symphony of
Nice.
the Night. Yeah, it's early on too. It's like within the first level or two of that I was playing in, and then there was that Metal Gear, Solid Snake. You got Psycho Mantis, which is a weird one. Like I was not expecting Psycho Mantis, like like the villain character, right? Or one of the villain characters. It's like, but yeah, they have a bunch of them, and then on the main hub world, they have like interactions, so you can do like little just small things, but it's just like it's the little things that make the difference. Uh, and you're collecting puzzle pieces. Well, you collect enough of those puzzle pieces, and you unlock a new item for the hub world. The first one you get is a gumball machine or a gachapon, actually. So it's and as you're collecting them, they are on you. Like it literally tells you, oh, great, you can something to spend your currency you've been collecting, the coins you've been collecting, and so you're using the coins you collect to get a new gumball like item drop, and those items are accessories for those named characters, the named Astrobots. So I got a cardboard box for Solid Snake. And then, so when you go buy the Solid Snake character, he's literally in a box. So you bump the box, and then he pops out. And it turns out he's looking at a magazine, and he quickly scrambles, grabs the magazine, and hides in the box again. I'm like, wait, what? And I bumped him again, and sure enough, it's more or less like an Astrobot bunny girl in the magazine centerfold, kind of, you know. So he's looking at a dirty magazine, essentially,
The pages are
making fun
stuck
of
together.
that. So yeah, it's just it's super silly. The music they have for that hub world is like, and the music in general is pretty great. But it's like a faux western. Like it was just fun to listen to. And what I did is I was playing it on the weekend with the kids, so I didn't usually don't let them play too much video games or anything like that. But I let them have their time, and we just all sat and we got to play. And they're like, yeah, they got to say kind of what levels they wanted to try or go, and it was more or less observing for them because it's not a two-player game. And if I let one play, then the other one's going to want to play simultaneously. So I'm avoiding that. It's a me game, but you guys can watch. But yeah, they seem to really enjoy that. It was their time with it, and yeah, it was just like when Saturday rolled around, like, yeah, can we play that robot game? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do that. So we'd play for a little bit, and
That's
it's
fantastic.
uh, yeah, it really was, and like it's so well put together. Um, and like I said, it's very very much all the old nostalgia feelings of playing all these old like the Super Mario games when you originally played. It's like for the first time, like yeah, this is most definitely takes a cue from everything, and they're not, at least early on, they're not too difficult, and I think it's a fair game. So for all the people who are giving it like now it's still debatable. Like, was it game of the year? I'm like, well, for the other things that were out there, I'm like, you know, for example, I don't think Stellar Blade was necessarily game of the year. It might have been my game of the year, but not
Oh,
necessarily. I couldn't say
interesting.
generally it would be it was better than Astrobot. I'm like, well, I think it's just like, but very much Astrobot pays homage to a bunch of platformers before it. Stellar Blade heavily off of different kind of stylish action games before it too. So
Yeah.
it's just uh but it's most definitely a fair game. I don't think it's not a wrong choice for the game of the year. And as much as my family loved it, it's like it's most definitely really, uh, yeah, I'm really happy to play it now that we've kind of run its course a little bit. I'm going to try the Plucky Squire with the kids as well, just to have them, because, like I said, it's the idea of a page, a character from a story coming out and stuff like that, like and running around in the world. I think they would enjoy that as well. So that's probably gonna be my next up, but I probably won't talk about that for a little bit because it's gonna be a weekend game with the kids.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and who
It'll
knows?
take.
Maybe they'll ditch it and be like, "I want Astrobot. Get rid of that Plucky Square." I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe after they're bored with Astrobot, you can do that. But yeah, because the Plucky Squire, you will have to. There's not a lot, but you will have to do some out loud reading. Uh, I would assume that they would want you to read out loud, so because that's where the story is, you know. But yeah, I think your kids probably enjoy it a lot if you're willing to do that.
Yeah. All right. Now let's get to what we've been watching.
Okay,
So, what has been your show of choice this week?
so um, there is a TV show called Servant that Apple put out. It ended, I think, 2022, 2023. I forget. It must have been 2023. Um, 4 seasons. So this is a show by M. Night Shyamalan. And I think his daughter is also involved. It might be more her show than his, but his name's attached to it. So it is a spooky show, horror show, kind of. On Apple TV. I can't remember if I said that, but yeah. So it so the premise of this show is pretty dark, but it's about a woman that it's about a family, but a woman that mistakenly causes the death of her own child, and then proceeds to kind of go insane because of that. Um, and but the way that her insanity is that she just blocks it out. And so the rest of the family is in a roundabout way they are encouraged to like they are encouraged to support this delusion until the mother, is ready to kind of deal with the reality of it. So that's sort of kind of what's the gentle explanation of what happens in season one. So this show just ended, or to me, it just ended. It had 4 seasons, and I just watched the finale of it. I won't go into the particulars. I don't want to spoil it. I don't think for just everybody, but but uh, but the other part of the premise of the show, which kind of was where it gets into a little bit more weirder territory, is that while the family is sort of supporting this delusion, um, a a strain like they um they allow a fake doll to take the place of the passed away child, and then the delusional mother wants to put out an ad for a babysitter so that she can go back to work. Um, and so they're like, oh, okay, this is getting a little bit too close to coming out, you know, so they're trying to keep it secret, you know. But the babysitter that they get to come is very odd and mysterious, hence the term servant, you know, that's the name of the show. And for some reason, whenever she is there, the doll is no longer a doll. It is a real baby, and nobody has an explanation for it. And so yeah, so that's kind of the full premise. The remaining, 3 seasons, all 4 seasons essentially, are kind of what they do with that situation, sort of why it is that way, whether it is whether it's magic or it's some sort of a trick or whatever. But so the show goes on, and I quit watching it sort of almost at the end of season 3 because I was just kind of turning off my Apple TV, and I sort of just lost interest in it. There was some stuff that was kind of going on in season 3. Where it was like, okay, come on. It wasn't really bad, but it was like, all right, let's get to the point here. Well, they kind of did, and in season 4, they I don't want to say race, but they go toward the conclusion, and they do conclude it in a way that I think answers all of the main questions that I had. Um, and yeah, it ended up being pretty good. It ended up being um, it ended up resolving in a way that I thought was fitting and appropriate for the show, and kind of it was cathartic. I'll say it was cathartic. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but if all of that sounds like it would be up your alley, then maybe go try to watch it. But yeah, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, in many ways. So know that going in. But yeah, so overall, enjoyable show. I don't know what actual rating I would give it. I'd have to think about that a lot more. But yeah, so that's what I've been watching. Joe, how about you? What have you been watching?
Well, let's see. All right, so trying to remember. So I apologize if I'm going over anything I've said before because there's been a lot of anime out there this season, and
I don't
hopefully these are the ones.
like looking at this list you have here that I can see at least. I don't think you have anything except for maybe one at the end there. But otherwise, even that one, I don't think you've said that much. So I think you're safe.
All right, well, here we got. So a couple of them that I'm like, I think that are more popular than they should be, and some that are rightfully so. So let's see. Okay,
Shots
coming out right out
fired.
of the
All
gate.
right.
Yeah, no. So all right. So it's all anime as I usually talk about. It's I'm getting married to a girl I hate in my class. Um, this one I feel is probably more like than it should be. This one is kind of meh tier. Yeah, it's just like the sad thing is it's getting dubbed. Um, and well, actually, no. This one isn't. This one, at least I thought I was getting dubbed. Maybe I'm wrong. Right now, I've seen five. I've seen like 5 episodes in Japanese, and I just, I, I thought I was going to go somewhere. I really did. It's the if you like a tsundere character, that's not necessarily. It's more so if you like someone who's just very offensive, like as far as they're like constantly trying to start stuff, try to cause problems, then yes, this one's for you. Essentially, what boils this down to is main character's grandpa is super rich. He's like he's part of he owns some major company that he started from the ground up. Grandpa is like, hey, uh, I'm kind of seeing this old other grandma, and she has a granddaughter that's your age. Why don't you two get married? More or less, yeah. Just you know, because it's anime, Nick. That's why. Okay.
Okay. This is like the
uh,
Seinfeld inside the Seinfeld show where he has to get a butler, and it's a stupid writing thing, but it's funny. Okay, go ahead.
this girl just does not like him. She constantly is, chastising him, and it's not even a like I secretly like you kind of thing. It's just she just seems to be a jerk. uh, like there's two other girls in the show. One is a cousin who is also like who doubles as his like little sister character. Uh, and she fawns over the main guy. So if you're into incest, then then she's the girl you go for. Um, I mean, she is by far way better than the main girl because it's just the main girl's just so annoying. And then the main girl has a like a blonde friend, and that is more likable than you know, and she actually has a genuine interest in the main guy, and it's just like I don't know. It's just kind of like this. The whole premise is just kind of garbage. You know, the main boy agrees to marry because Grandpa was like, "Hey, if you want to inherit my company, you got to marry. If not, I'm just gonna ditch the company and give it to a dog, or something like a rando like pet. It's just he's just spiteful, and the girl has her own reasons for wanting like to agree to marry, despite her hating him. And it's just like, okay, the next scene, you're living in a house together. Like literally, this is our rules. You got to live in a house. You got to share a bed. Um, we'll know if you don't sleep in the same bed tonight. Like it's so stupid, so very stupid. Um, and it's just like we're forcing you to be together, and we're just gonna make you progress because it's more like you like each other now because you've never spent time with the opposite gender, and now you're under the same roof, so now you like each other. It's dumb. Just avoid it. All right. Now, another one that I hope it gets better, but man, I think it's
People
lame.
like this one.
Is
People like that. I mean, I've been. I don't. I mean, I hate the Reddit rankings too. Whenever I look on Reddit and it's like, oh, these are the top ones, and it's like this one is getting. I was like, huh. It looked kind of meh, but people seem to like it.
all right. This one is a shoujo anime, so it's targeted towards the girl audience, and I can see why in a certain demographic it would be popular. This one's called Honey Lemon Soda. It's about a girl who is, for all intents and purposes, bland, and she's quiet, and she gets made fun of in middle school. And she is stalker level, like obsessed, kind of like or clingy to the main character. She doesn't do anything necessarily out of being quiet. Like they call her like stone face or stony because like kind of like a Jesus statue, I assume, just standing still in the corner, never saying anything, and therefore she doesn't stand up for herself, and she doesn't stick out. She got made fun of due to a random bumping into a cute looking guy, and he spoke to her. Literally, he hands her the papers, speaks to her, and he realizes she's sad, and so says like, maybe you should go to this school. And so she's like, she subconsciously fails her entrance exam to a really good school because that's the one he's going to. Yeah, it's and then they happen to be in the same class because of course, and he happens to speak to her again, and it's just she literally can't stand up for herself, and he everything he does is it's like you would hate this. Like I hate this on so many levels, but it's like, you know, she is literally a girl who can't exist without this guy pushing her forward and leading the way. Um, it's not so far. It hasn't done anything that really's convinced me. He's just been like, I don't know, brooding and annoying the entire time, but that's his charm. I'm like, dude, there's so much better shoujo out there. Just not really this season, I guess. But gosh. Okay. I had 2 episodes dubbed. That's all I've seen so far. I will do the 3-episode bump, and if I hate myself enough, I'll finish the series because why not? Like this is just ugh. All right. Next. Um all right. I left my A rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon's depths. Okay. Stupidly long title. The manga is actually pretty good. I've actually read the manga
Is this a manga?
a while ago.
It's not a light novel.
Oh, it's probably based off that too.
Oh,
But a lot of these do so how it works is light novel, manga, then adaptation to anime.
okay.
Um I don't read light novels. They're not my cup of tea. But the manga I came across a long time ago. It was okay. It did a lot of things different, which I was okay with. So it's a fantasy world, not an isekai. Yes, it's a dude who leaves a top tier party for one reason or another, And so in this case, he he's really good at a lot of things. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's a red mage. He's the lynch, like most of these stories. He's the linchpins of the party when but he's being treated unfairly, or at least that's what he feels like. So the other party's like, well, you're the extra character, so we don't need you. And of course, the moment he leaves, the party starts to fail, because that's how those stories go. He happened to also train a newbie group of adventurers a while ago, and they see him, he's available, and they're like, yes, we will accept you into our party. Of course, that's a party of all girls, so it instantly becomes a win for him because it's a harem situation. And all right, so all that generic stuff aside, here's where it makes it interesting. Okay. Uh, so they go into dungeons. Essentially, uh, it's kind of weird because they have uh, a floating, like the old monster creatures from like Dragon Warrior or something, the flying bat with the eyeball.
Okay,
It's kind
gotcha.
of like that, but it's a camera. So then they can stream themselves to the guild and to society, as like, here's the adventures of said party, like different parties. So they have their own like ranking and like viewership kind of thing going on. So it's kind of funny that way. The Later on, they don't really talk about much in the first episode or so. There's only a couple episodes out right now, and it's getting dubbed, so that's kind of a neat thing too. Um, they have a unique dungeon structure, and the idea is like the dungeon head run rampant. They kind of closed it off, and they're reopening it, but it's like the depths of it is unknown, and they just have a really neat hierarchy to how the dungeon goes. I can't really say too much without spoiling things that make it interesting later on. But yeah, it was just a different type of one of these stories, right? It kept it fresh and interesting enough. My actual problem with it is they made all the characters more pretty in in this one. Like, it has a more simplistic, uh like a cuter art style, but it wasn't. They made them more handsome and more like, I think the girls are more generically even
You
as
mean
far
than
as their
they
facial
were
archetype.
in the manga?
The manga was more of a softer tone, like not quite chibi style, but for example, the main guy, they made him more handsome in the anime. They've done
Oh,
this before I've mentioned this like in the past about other anime that have done this, where like, we're gonna take this simplistic art style and make it like it's taking the manga art and making it into. You see this more with shoujo manga for sure, like the old Sailor Moon, for example.
yeah,
Very different from the manga to the anime. So
yeah,
it's kind of like that, but the the manga itself wasn't anything special as far as the art the characters are, but they tried to make him more appealing. And I'm like, that's odd. I'm used to him being this like, this more simplistic, like homely guy. I don't know. It's just like, but they try to pretty him up, and they made the three female characters more evenly generic. I feel like they are like, they made it in that sense more simplistic, but they tried making them appealing, I guess. So, anyways, that's like my only real complaint about it so far. As far as the anime adaptation, they have a really there's a I figure I think I know where the story is going to end on the first season based off of the the characters they show in the opening trailer. So I'm like, okay, the first main story arc, or difficulty they hit, I feel will be interesting, and I hope they do it well. But yeah, I'm kind of hopeful for it, but at the same time, I'm so far beyond it in the manga, or at least I was when I stopped, that I'm also kind of like not necessarily as interested in the anime. I just hope they do it kind of justice, but I think it'll just be fair. I don't think it'll be anything. I think it'll be like a 6 out of 10. Is just my gut reaction from what I've seen so far. All right, and the last one, of course. No, there wasn't really any doubt in this, but I haven't really talked about it too much. I just said it was coming out. Is the Apothecary Diaries? It finally started getting English dub. It's currently like at this time it's like 4, maybe 5 episodes.
hmm
Don't know, out in
sounds about right.
Japanese, and it's like one episode coming on the second episode uh, in English. And yeah, I'm watching it in English only because I saw season 1 in English, and I like the English voicing for it. I know it didn't, you enjoyed it, but it didn't really speak to you last time.
I'm
So
considering giving it another run. because people have continued to talk about it. And when I watched it last time, I don't think I was really giving it a fair shake. I do kind of remember what I didn't care for about it, or wasn't not. Well, that's the wrong way to put it. What wasn't grabbing me about it, but I think I will probably try to give it another shake.
All right. And the last thing I was going to mention is the last anime is Solo Leveling season 2. So I was lackluster on season 1. It had for me, a meh start. I mean, a lot of people really like the start because it's intense, but I felt like it wasn't anything. When
Different.
you see enough of it, it's
Yeah.
if it's your first time seeing it, then it's awesome. But if you've seen enough things like it, you're like, okay. It's like
Yeah.
how many Death Game series do you have to see before it and then eventually it just hits on nothing. So if you haven't seen any betrayals, like oh that's or anything like that, it's crazy. It's blah blah blah. I felt like mid season through Solo Leveling, it was kind of not really progressing the way I wanted to. Uh, but in the end, it was okay. But season 2, on the other hand, couple episodes, 2 episodes dubbed so far, uh, moving at a much faster pace and just going straight into the action, which I think is where it does its best to shine. I don't really need when it comes to this, I don't really need a whole lot of extra plot, extra exposition. Um, I just want to see it's good looking action. That's all I want to see. Uh, there's the main, it picks up where it leaves off. You have a new antagonist, which is like the older brother to one of the guys who died in the first season, and he's just a d-bag, and you're just like, okay, I can't wait for that guy to get murdered or like to die, because he's just
Yeah.
all he wants is revenge for his for the death of his crappy little brother who was murdering people. And he's just like, but he's might makes right kind of character. So you're like, okay, I can't wait to see him get torn to shreds. I'm just waiting for that.
So
you know.
I've been keeping up with this as well. Yeah, that is gonna be fun to see. I've been keeping up with this as well, and I have a similar opinion. I do think that this season is definitely better, and yeah, it has enough things set up. It just had. I mean, like at this point with a lot of these isekais and stuff, that there needs to be a shorthand. If you have something different to say later on, because they all say the same thing at the very beginning. It's all the setup and blah blah. And oh, look what I can do! I can do this. And it's like, okay, we know this. We know why you're Spider-Man. We know Uncle Ben died, and that's why you're Spider-Man. Just skip all that and just get to the part where you're going to do something different. So anyway, that's just my public service announcement. But yeah, so now we're at past that point, and we're in season 2 where you kind of can like where they have that set up and they're sort of doing what they want to with it, and the rules of this universe are coming out a bit more. So yeah, I think it has been more interesting overall, and I think I'm fully caught up with it. I know the new episode's about to come out as we record this here soon, but otherwise I'm completely caught up. And then yeah, so I've been keeping track of this on some of the tracker apps, and people really like this show. It has like an 8.6 on one of the trackers that I use, and I'm sorry, but that's just way too high. I'm sorry, people, but like I think in a normal world I might give this like a 7, maybe like a low 7, but I am refusing to give it a 7 right now. I have it at like a 6.9. I had the all last season as like 6.8, and I am very willing to move that score down to bring the overall score, to do my part to bring the overall score of this show down, because 8.6 is just way, it's just way too high. I'm sorry, America, world, Japan, whatever, whoever's in charge of this, you guys got to bring it down. It's not that good of a show, and
You can
that's
blame the Koreans for this one. But yes, it's very
your
much is
people.
a hey, it's a manoir, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
uh all I gotta say is it's very much if you're like, I think this is the first type of this thing that's come out to a lot of people. So therefore, the first exposure to anything, whether it be like your first battle royale, your first death game, in this case, like this kind of revenge plot and dungeons popping up, because there's a lot of stories, and Korea really likes the whole dungeon bit too, and quite a few different things. But anyways, like a lot of people's exposure to a lot of these elements coming together. Uh, that's why it got a higher rating than I think it deserved. But so far, season two you just came in like full stride, lots of action, uh, less moral compass things. Like he's already a murder machine. He's just straight up a murder machine now. He's okay with him being a murder machine, and I'm okay with watching it. Um, like if it's just this for the entire season, I mean, that means I've at least, if it keeps the steadiness, I would have easily watched. I've already watched worse so far, so at least it won't be a waste of a season. Let's hope that they do something with the story. Um, yeah, that's about it. I mean, like I don't think it's going to be. I don't. It'll have to be amazing to pull off an 8, but like I would, season two by itself, it will. It's like it's a 7. That I just season two by itself, just the 2 episodes I've seen in English, because like I said, the action is steady. There's no beating around the bush. It's pretty straight. I'm like, okay, great. Um, you know, yeah. Overall, season 1 and 2 so far, I'm gonna rank it like less. But once again, I was very much lukewarm by the time season 1 ended. So, all right,
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
yeah, I remember you were kind of like, yeah, people need to chill on this show a little bit, and I do kind of agree with you. I do kind of agree with you on that. I still do. But yeah, I kind of people being so high on it, and then I look at some of the manga ratings and manhwa and stuff like that, and it is very high. Even like it's obviously like number one on the manhwa pretty much all the time, but it's super high on the manga ratings as well. Um, I look at some of the art style from the manhwa, and I'm kind of like, this does look pretty cool. So I'm not saying I will, but I have had my curiosity piqued a little bit, and if I get some extra time or get a wild hair, I might pick up the manhwa and try to read ahead and maybe see where where and why this kind of is so highly regarded, because I have a feeling it might be coming from people like the anime because they know where it's going to go, because they've already read the manhwa, rather than just rating the anime purely on its own merit. I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
me throwing something out
Well,
there.
yeah, that's a positive spin for sure. I mean, put it this way, the series as a whole, like I know someone who just started picking up the manga. They literally just picked up issue 1. They're like, I'm gonna give the anime a try, and then next thing I know, like I picked up volume 1 and of the manga, and I'm like, I'm not gonna stop you. I mean, I don't think it's not bad enough for me to say, hey, don't do it. I mean, it's the season 1 at least was a 5 or a 6. Like I think for me personally, it was like a 6, I guess.
That's
I
probably
mean, it's
better.
just
Yeah.
okay. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, if it's a 5, I'd probably tell people just if you can avoid it, but like no, 6 is all right. So, but anyways, Solo Leveling season 2 coming out strong, um, and I hope it stays strong. That's I don't want to waste my time. So, all right, guys, uh, you
Speaking of
made it to the
wasted
end.
time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you, for spending your precious time with us. Preferably on the background, so you can do something else constructive. But all right, if you're doing Lunar New Year, enjoy that. I know my mom is. So, all right, guys. Nick, until next time. What are some words of wisdom you can tell for the people out there?
my words of wisdom are, when you have magic cards or Pokemon cards or any kind of baseball cards, you need to double sleeve, and not it's not putting one sleeve and then another the exact same direction. You have to do one direction and then the other. You need to double sleeve. It's just for it's for your
It's
own
for your
good,
own protection.
for your own protection and for the protection of those around you. You're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting them as well. So just double sleeve, uh, at least your most important expensive stuff, but generally it should be everything. Remember to double sleeve.
All right. And just always remember, why don't you have a pork bun in your hand? All right. Until next time, y'all, take it easy.
Bye.